Republican Seniors of Minnesota, a group of seasoned seniors that learn and discuss issues important to all Minnesotans, featuring guest speakers with traditional conservative values, plus Republican candidates at all levels, pledging strength and optimism. We believe in and advocate for the principles of personal responsibility, economic prosperity, peace through strong national defense, and limited, sensible government. Republican Seniors of Minnesota. It's not the years in your life, but the life in your years.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for coming this morning. And a very special welcome to those who are attending our meeting via video live stream. I'm Terry Flower. I'm the chair of the Republican Seniors of Minnesota. This meeting is being live streamed today by our volunteers with livestreampros.net. You can view the stream live on your website or through YouTube, Rumble, and you can even watch it on your large screen smart TV. If you got a question, ask us how afterwards. Also, reminder that we want to welcome other groups and watch parties of our live stream. Starting next month, we will be joined by the North Metro Republican Seniors from CD6 up in Hilltop, Minnesota. How about a sound check? Can you hear me in back? Okay, good. Thank you. If at any time you're not able to hear us, please wave your hands, and Scott Graham, board member and the video controller volunteer, right over here with the good old red and white hat. Yeah. Anyway, he's handling the soundboard today. He's replacing Mike Lehman, who usually does that. Mike suffered a very serious accident with a power saw gone awry. In any case, Mike has a brace holding his stitches and staples together, and his quick-acting wife, who knew how to use a tourniquet, and was able to get him first aid and called 911. And Mike looks like he's coming right along. He's unable to be here with us today, but we're told that he's watching us via live stream. So we all pray for a speedy recovery. If you will please join me in an opening prayer, you can remain seated. We gather together this morning for fellowship and to become better informed about the issues that affect not just mature citizens, but all the people of the great state of Minnesota and this marvelous country that we live in. We recognize the importance of family, knowing that you gave your only Son that we all might be saved. Help us become more knowing, better decision makers. Now, while many of our cultural institutions have broken away from your loving, merciful, and eternal truth, let us pray that common sense will prevail. In Christ's name we pray, amen. By the way, I'd like to see if maybe next month and following months, maybe one of our members would like to lead invocation, and if you even like, I could even write one for you. So what do you think of that? Okay, good. Thank you. We'd like to acknowledge our military veterans, active, retired police officers, firefighters, and first responders. Will those people please stand and be recognized? And now will all please stand, and as you're able, of course, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Do have some announcements. We're going to be trying every month to tweak our meetings, make it more interesting and more useful for all of you. Birthdays and celebrations. We'd like to just slightly change our meeting format to better serve you. First, we want to routinely recognize any audience members who might be celebrating a birthday or some other event. Let me start it off. August is the birth month of my wife, Margaret, and I have permission to mention her age. She is 80 years young. And it's also my birth month, and that's well beyond 80. Our children gave us a small private celebration this past weekend because we're also celebrating our 60th wedding anniversary. Anybody else out there have a birthday this month? Come on, at least a 12th of us ought to have it. Here's a speaker microphone.
A week ago, it turned 70.
Good for you. Andy?
Yesterday.
I have a birthday at the end of the month, and I'll be 64.
My name is Roger, and next week I turn 85. I would just like to say, when I was young, I lived very close here, and my parents were very strong DFL Democrats, and they told me how to vote. But eventually, I had to think. And it wasn't easy relationships, especially with my father. But I finally figured out I had to go what works instead of what just made me feel good. So I'm proud to be here.
God bless you. Okay. Carol.
Oh, me too.
Oh,
My name's Tom. I'm on the board. Just turned 77. I tell people that I was born before electricity. So.
I'm Carol, your past chair, and I have hit the milestone of 70.
Okay, congratulations to all of you. We're going to implement a brief, what we call a 3-minute stretch prior to our meeting's featured speaker. So that'll be at like the end of the first hour. Let you get up and stretch your legs. There will be a running countdown timer on the PowerPoint slideshow. And I think, Al, you run it, right? Oh, okay, well, it's being accurately timed. Okay, we're also going to reintroduce our old 2 cents for 2 minute segment. For all of your announcements, audience members are invited to stand and make relative relevant announcements or promotions that you want to share. And anyone that's a new visitor or a guest is also encouraged to just say hello, introduce yourselves during this segment. Again, the countdown timer will be displayed so we can keep on track. There will be a Republican Seniors of Minnesota board meeting at noon right after this. We don't expect one next month. You are welcome to stay in this room for conversations after the meeting. We do have it until noon. Thank you to all of the additional volunteers who stepped forward. We can still use more help for Republican seniors. Our group will again be volunteering at the Minnesota GOP office, monthly helping prepare envelopes for mailing. Every little bit helps. We'll meet there at the state party headquarters just off of Highway 100 and I-94. And so come when you can and leave when you want. And feel free to bring a friend or two. Okay, thank you for your willingness to help. One last point here is the state fair. We still need some volunteers for the Minnesota GOP booth throughout the 12 days of the Minnesota State Fair. There won't be a specific senior day at the booth, so anyone interested in helping or greeting the public at the booth, you're encouraged to sign up now by going to our website, republicanseniorsmn.com, and look for the sign up on the home page. And you can also send an email to statefair@mngop.com, and that'll help too. Does anybody know what they call a basement full of flaming liberals? A wine cellar. I am so pleased this morning to introduce our first speaker today. That's Lisa Demuth, Speaker of the Minnesota House of Representatives. I mean, it has been a long time since we've had a Republican speaker. She's a longtime resident of Cold Spring in District 13A. You know, sometimes when they introduce someone, they introduce them because of their gender or because of their race or because of something. We're talking because they're Republican, and I'm pleased to be able to introduce Madam Speaker. She and her husband Nick have 4 children, 7 grandchildren. She's a small business owner dedicated to serving her community. Lisa worked on a bipartisan state budget that delivered the largest reduction in state spending in Minnesota history, while at the same time ensuring that Minnesota remains a great place to live, to work, and to raise a family. She is going to tell us about the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well, good morning, Republican seniors of Minnesota. Good to be with you this morning. It is absolutely my honor, and it has been a long time since we have had a Republican Speaker of the House. And I want to bring you back a little bit to know that pathway to get there wasn't as smooth as maybe most of the other times that has happened. If you think back to that election of 2024, I'm really proud of the fact that as the House Republican Caucus, we held every one of our 64 Republican-held seats for the first time in recent history, if not the first time in history overall. And I have to say that is because of people such as yourselves that are willing to stay involved and not give up. You know that Minnesota is a great place to be. And I fully believe that. I was born in Painesville, so central Minnesota, moved around a little bit, but I have the honor of still representing Paynesville. So people that I had knocked on doors, maybe I remembered their family names or something such as that, but it is my honor to absolutely be part of continuing the good that is done in Minnesota and making sure that my kids and my grandkids, your grandkids, choose to stay here. So we held every one of those 64 held seats. We also had raised a record amount of money compared to the other years going forward. We broke records, and I think anytime we have a record that we can make, it means there's a record to be broken the next time. So that's our trajectory. So not only did we hold one of the 64 held seats going forward, in 26, I want to hold every one of those 67 seats and gain one or more to give us that full outright majority. But going back, absolutely, please, we need your help and your encouragement. That's good candidates raising money and being in it to win it and moving over that finish line. But going back to that election night, it was about 2:30 in the morning when we finally got all of the results. Now, granted, we had a couple of seats that showed that we won, and then with the next update from the Secretary of State, they would zero out, even though all precincts had reported, and then they would go back, and it looks like we maybe didn't quite win that seat. That's what we thought too, but we knew about 2:30 in the morning that we had a tie in the House. I received a text message from, at that point, it had been Speaker Melissa Hortman, and she said, it looks like we're blessed to work in a tie. And even though we were on opposing sides of the aisle, even during the full Democrat one-party control, Melissa Hortman and I got along well together. I didn't like her politics, but we could work and be disagreeing in things without being rude or disagreeable. And that was something that our state has really needed to see. So all I said is, I'll see you later on. We'll talk about this. So it looked like we were going to, for the second time in history, have a tie. So we had a tie back in 1979, and for Republicans to get to the tie back in 79, they had earned or won 33 additional seats. So think of how far in the minority we were at the time. If you read the book called The Minnesota Standoff, which our leadership staff had read a year before, things were done a little bit differently there. Instead of splitting power equally, some of the chairs were given to Democrats. The Speaker of the House was Republican, but the power had gone to those chairs. So it was really kind of a dysfunctional organization. We knew that we could do it a little bit better with what had been learned before and where we were headed. The agreement was we were going to have, for the first time ever, co-speakers. We were going to have co-chairs in every committee, equal committee membership, so equal voting. And that was the start of that power-sharing agreement, until we realized that the guy that won, the Democrat that won in Roseville, didn't live in the district. And you can't serve in a district that you don't live in. So we needed to have a new election is what needed to happen. What that did is this put us into a one-seat advantage. So instead of a tie, we had 67, Democrats had 66. Now you will hear, because the Democrats chose to stay out from work, they didn't show up for 23 days, you will hear it was because we weren't going to seat the person that won in Shakopee by 14 votes, even though 20 ballots had been thrown away. Do you remember that? Now, I'm talking about the same election. Just work with me here. There was a lot that happened. And so that is what you will hear. What the excuse was for the Democrats, that wasn't the case. The case was they had 66 members able to be seated and take office. We had 67. A speaker can be elected with 67. It has happened before in Minnesota history. It was not because of the Shakopee case. It was because they had supported someone that couldn't take office, and they had an empty seat. That is why they didn't show up. We finally were able to come with not a power-sharing agreement, but an organizational agreement, which meant I was going to be speaker for 2 years, which I am. full responsibility of speaker. And then we had equal members in every committee, co-chairs, but while they were one person down until the voters of Roseville decided who was going to win that seat, not just because maybe the numbers looked like it was going to go Democrat. We were going to let the voters make that decision, which they did, returned it to a tie. But during that time, we had a one-seat Republican advantage in every committee with the voting as such, and then when we did go back to a tie, we returned to that. With the one exception of, how many of you know there's fraud in the state of Minnesota? How many of you know you're going to hear a little bit later more about that fraud? When we came into this, something we had campaigned on, something that we had talked about for years, was the extent of the fraud. At that time, we were almost $500 million of known fraud. You know, if you know the amount of fraud, it's kind of like an iceberg, where it's you see this much, and everything you don't see is probably under there. You can't quite prove it, but you have a pretty good idea that it's there. Because of that, it was really important to us as House Republicans to have a fraud prevention and agency oversight committee. That was going to be very important, that we focused on not just acknowledging that there's fraud, not just prosecuting it, which also needs to happen, but why don't we start preventing it so your tax dollars aren't wasted with fraud? That made common sense to us. So that's the approach that we took. What we were able to do with that organizational agreement at the start of the year then was to secure a Republican to be the chair for 2 years of the Fraud Prevention and Agency Oversight Committee, that is Chair Kristen Robbins, and then a Republican advantage in that committee throughout the entire 2 years, even before that special election. We were able to secure that. Some of the other wins that we had, though, that I'm really, really proud of. Now remember, it's important to know that in the beginning of 2023, at the beginning of the Democrat one-party control, we had an $18 billion surplus. Some of that was one-time money, but not all of it. That was entirely spent. It wasn't returned to most Minnesotans. And your taxes and fees, the state budget, went up by another $10 billion, another 40%. That is not sustainable. We have one of the highest tax states, both individually and corporate, and I know a number of you are still paying a portion of taxes on your Social Security, which is something that we wanted to get done. We haven't been able to get that completely eliminated. Those were the reality. That was the reality when we started in 2023. So moving forward then, in 2025, common sense said, don't raise taxes on Minnesotans. We've got to, as you saw on the introduction, we delivered to the state of Minnesota the largest spending cut, biennium to biennium, in history, a $5 billion reduction of our spending. We weren't able to get all of the money back yet, but we had to do that incrementally. Remember, we have a Democrat governor. We have a Democrat, at the time, a Democrat-led Senate by one vote, and then a tie in the House. The fact that we were able to deliver any reduction of spending whatsoever in a tied House, and let me tell you, when I would go into that negotiating room, when we were in the governor's cabinet room, it was me as the only Republican in there. Sometimes Leader Mark Johnson from the Senate Republican, great guy, we get along very, very well. He does a great job leading his caucus. He would be in the room sometimes, but otherwise it was kind of the truth sitting there was we were 1/2 of 1/3 of government, and we were still able to do that. Imagine what we can do with an outright majority if we were able to do that with just a tie. So that's our focus for 26. Absolutely, go ahead. We delivered that spending reduction. We also were able to end the taxpayer-funded health coverage for those people that are in our state as undocumented or illegal. We needed to end that. I am all for legal immigration, absolutely, and I want to make sure that I did not stutter on those words. I am all in agreement with legal immigration. People that are choosing to be in our country in a different manner need to go through the proper channels. And we cannot use tax dollars to keep funding things and making Minnesota a magnet for that. Not only did we need to end it because it was the right thing to do, we also knew when that was voted in over the last biennium, the projection was that there was going to be about 5,700 people on that particular program that were here illegally, that were going to take advantage of taxpayer-funded health care, basically, or taxpayer-funded health insurance coverage. Anyone that is here legally that happens to be on that type of insurance or the help that comes from the state, the feds pay 90%, and our state tax dollars pay the 10%. People that are here illegally, it was 100% of our tax dollars going to that. So I was talking to people across the state that said, our family is barely making it. We happen to be on the state plan. But you mean to tell me that our tax dollars are only paying 10% and the feds are doing the rest? But if you're here illegally, Minnesota's paying for the whole thing? I said, exactly, that is the way it is. They said, that is not right. Most people agreed with it. Now, there is nothing to prevent people that are here illegally from accessing health care. They just have to pay for it on their own. There is nothing that would prevent that. If there's an injury or an illness or something, people that are here illegally absolutely can go in to any medical site and get the care that is needed. So that was something that was really important to make sure people understood that differentiation, that we weren't being uncaring, but 5,700 people were expected to be on it. First 4 months, started January 1st of 25. By April 24th of 25, there were over 20,000 people taking advantage of that. It was unsustainable. As I talk about the state budget, that was unsustainable. The compromise that was made in there is that children under the age of 18, not under 21 or 25, college, whatever, under the age of 18 will be still on that program unless the feds change something. That was the compromise that was made. You have to compromise when you are 1/2 of 1/3 of the government, and we were able to deliver that. The other thing that it's really important to recognize is that we did not raise taxes on Minnesota families. We had said, yes, Minnesota families were taxed enough, and that was one of the things as we were negotiating toward the end, well, let's just raise taxes. And I said, we are not raising taxes. Started out with that in the beginning. We'll kind of carry all the way through. We are not raising those taxes. And then May 19th was the day that we were supposed to be done with our work, and we needed 1 day of a special session. What we were able to prove, though, is by May 19th, the date that we were scheduled to be done with our work, we did not get everything done. Remember, 1/2 of 1/3 of government here. But we were able to pass our public safety and judiciary bill, the state government bill, the agriculture bill, the housing bill, and the veterans bill. And so it did prove that even in a tie, we could be Team House because anything that passed out of any committee or off the House floor had to be bipartisan. And let me tell you, Minnesotans are actually pleased with that. People want us to work together. That means getting rid of the extremes on both sides, not the people, just the policies, getting rid of the policies extremes on each side, and finding what makes the most sense down the middle for the most people. Are there things we wanted to repeal? Things that have been done by the Democrat trifecta? You bet. There were a lot of things we wanted to. We could not get those over the finish line. Not for lack of trying. We just couldn't get them over the finish line. But I've already told you what we were able to deliver for you to get that done. So first, that last day of session, we got a bulk of things done. We came back June 9th to finish up the state budget. And we were able to get that done. We were given from 10 a.m. on a Monday morning until 7 a.m. Tuesday morning. That would have been going all through the night. The House was able to get that work done in about 12 hours. We didn't think we needed all the time, but we would have taken it because we don't want to close down any voices. And then, as all of you know, the tragedy that happened, the political assassinations that happened in our state just 6 days later. On Saturday, June 14th, Melissa and Mark Hortman were gunned down in their home. And then Senator Hoffman and his wife Yvette were also hit with gunfire and an attempted assassination They are recovering. They will continue. That has changed our state in a way that no one would have expected. You don't expect political violence. When we choose to serve, as you heard, I've got kids and grandkids and a business and a family, and that we are servant leaders. When we come in to serve in the legislature, we're part-time. It's full-time hours or plus, but it's part-time. We have jobs outside of this. We have family and a life. You should never have to worry about your safety when you're trying to serve your community. And so we've put some things in place for current members of the legislature to ensure a little bit more safety, give a little bit of confidence where we are still pretty rocked. There are a number of people that we know that there's law enforcement that continue to support us in different ways. There are things that we are changing, will continue to. The thing that I don't want to have happen, and it was Senator John Hoffman that just said this just about a week ago. He said, "Don't let the evil in the dark of night change things." We need good people that will continue to want to serve and represent their communities. We want those people to still run for office and win so our democracy can actually work in the way it was intended. Voices, representative form of government, voices being heard. We are not always going to agree on everything. In my family, even with my husband, I don't always agree with everything. He for sure doesn't always agree with everything. But we work together. It's got to be the same way where we can work together respectfully and lose just the damaging rhetoric that has become so commonplace. That's the example that I want to leave and lead with. I want to leave that for my grandkids so that they're not concerned or upset or anything when they see something said about another person or by another person, but we can learn to be respectful. This is kind of, like I said, change the way we can do the governing work that we are set to do. Our eyes, though, are on 26, and usually I have a countdown on my phone. I haven't quite put that on, down to the election. That's what I had last time. This is how much time is left. We are finding great candidates. We've got some, maybe we're going to have retirements, and we know that. And so we'll work with those people if they choose to do that. But we want great candidates that are going to take Republican values and hear from their communities and then come into the legislature and be great legislators and learn to work together, work through differences, maybe not seeing eye to eye, but getting good things done for the state of Minnesota. So we are looking at a couple of targeted seats, those that we lost with maybe 14 votes last time. For sure, top target, and I will tell you about that one. Our candidate from last time, Aaron Paul, law enforcement, longtime resident, really a great candidate, a great member of his community. He has already said, "I'm running again." And so we are excited for that. There's a few other of those really narrowly held seats that we are definitely focusing on. And the thing about it is everything that was done in 23 and 24 went down pretty much on party lines. And so we can point, even if somebody comes in and maybe they're a Democrat and they say, "Well, I'm moderate," we can point to their votes that say, "But we're not seeing that in how you're representing your community. We're just seeing that right along the party line." So we are working hard in that. We are also working hard in raising funds. Typically, we are outspent by the Democrats anywhere from 6-1 to 12-1 across the state. That is an uphill climb. Look what we were able to do with getting to a tie. Even with that stat, we were still able to accomplish that. And so that means that people are excited about what we can bring. People are excited about what we can do. And we are out there breaking records again, raising funds, and then we want to take over and do that full majority. That is what is so needed. It has been my honor to be with you this morning. I know I've got a very full schedule today, so I'm going to have to head out. But thank you so much for giving me the time. Thank you for your involvement as Republican seniors here in the state of Minnesota. I read this. I have not become a part of you, which I absolutely need to because I qualify. But thank you for being here. It's really an honor to meet you. So I have about 2 minutes, and I have to say, not only as members are we able to do the work that we do, but it's because of really great staff. And we have Amanda, our comms director here. I've got her with me today. Great staff that supports what is being done. She also keeps me on time, too. So there is one question that came in by text, and it says, what does it look like going forward about the speaker position? So as I had mentioned earlier, I am the speaker for 2 years. Going forward, that is the agreement that was made, and that still remains. There is a primary today in the Brooklyn Park seat. That is an open seat because of the death of Melissa Hortman. That election itself, and that's a Democrat primary. There are 3 candidates. There's one Republican running in that seat. That special election is going to be September 16th. And so we do, again, have a candidate there, but we are going to watch how that turns out. It doesn't change anything as far as me being speaker. And I think that's an important thing for people to realize is that has been the agreement that will go forward. Over in the Senate, they're going to have 2 special elections, and the governor has called those for the beginning of November. I can't think of the date exactly right now. That is the seat vacated by former Senator Nicole Mitchell in Woodbury. And I see smiles out there on that one. I love that. And then also with the passing of Senator Bruce Anderson from the Wright County area. Both of those special elections will take place on the November regular election day, but they are both specials, and there are candidates that have stood up for both. With that, though, I'm going to need to let you go, right? Yep, I'm getting the nod. So thank you very much. Great to be with you.
Thank you. Say, before we do anything else, we're going to take that 3-minute stretch. This is a good opportunity to network a little bit and talk to your friends.
Yeah, you dropped that. I was going to get it for you.
Down your tweet, you're fighting with the hashtag not fixing the street. Congressman's yelling like he's on a game show. Meanwhile, my taxes just ate my burrito. Left wing, right wing, flapping in the breeze. We're stuck in the middle, begging pretty please. Stop the hate, stop this spin. We don't care which side wins. Just fix the roads, fund the schools. Quit treating us like political tools. We're red, we're blue, we're all kind of screwed. Together like grown-ups do. Filibusters, fundraising, golf cart rides, arguing while the planet fries. One blames the other like it's recess again, but nobody's playing, we just want to win. You wear fancy pins and give fiery speeches, but can you agree on anything that reaches? Pass the hate, pass the lies, drop the drama and compromise. We need jobs, not your feud, and less TV where you come off rude. We're red, we're blue, we're tired too. Try acting like Americans do. Oh, Washington, you're like a bad sitcom, but without the laughs or a theme song. Can we get a plot twist? Maybe a clue where the credits roll and we all pull through. Yeah, I said it. Maybe just one bipartisan barbecue a year. No name calling, just ribs and solutions. Is that too much to ask? Stop the hate, stop the fight, turn the wrongs into a right. No more gridlock, no more games. We know the parties, but not the names. We're red, we're blue, but mostly tired. Let's light a fire that's not just wire. So dance, donkey, prance, elephant. We the people pay the rent. Do your job, not just the show, 'cause we're all in this rodeo.
said we should be. It looks like this back. Okay. Well, if not, then down. We'll figure it out.
Andy, where?
I'm in Tallahassee, Florida. That's right. So I'm originally a Chicago native, around Chicago, and did my high school years outside Philadelphia. When I moved to Tallahassee from Panhandle in Florida, they referred to me as a Yankee, and I said that's fine. Because I stayed, I became a damn Yankee. 3 minutes are up. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, folks. 3 minutes is up. Time for us to resume our meeting. Folks, time to start our meeting again. You. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, and now our featured speaker for the day, Andy McClenahan.
Get the microphone closer. Closer to your mouth.
You got it? Hear me now? Well, that's why we raise our hands if we can't hear. Thank you. Andy McClenahan is a fraud investigator for United Council on Welfare Fraud. Welfare fraud and the other organizations behind crime. Andy's going to give us some insights into the public assistance programs administered in Minnesota. He told me he grew up in Chicago, and I grew up in Chicago too. So I think maybe he's the right guy to investigate fraud.
From the south side.
Well, I'm from the south side too.
Sox fans.
Anyway, and you'll give us some insight into the public assistance programs administered in Minnesota and discuss how fraud, waste, and abuse is occurring. He'll point out who is doing it and what can be done to address the out-of-control pillaging of our taxpayer-funded government programs. Andy?
Thank you, sir. First, thanks, Chuck. You actually pronounced my name correctly. It took me 7 years to figure that out, so thank you, Terry. Yes, I did grow up outside of Chicago, and I love this state. Best muskie fishing there is, as far as I'm concerned. I caught the fever when I was young, and have enjoyed a lot of the resources that this great state has, and so it's a pleasure for me to be here. And when Colonel Patton calls and says, "Hey, Andy, can you come and talk to us in our state about welfare fraud?" If Don calls, you come. And so it's a pleasure to be here. I am a director and sit on the board for the United Council on Welfare Fraud. My employer is LexisNexis Risk Solutions. They're a data company too. I'm going to give them a little shout out because they address with a lot of these issues. When I'm retired law enforcement from the state of Florida, and that the Lord put me against my will in Nineveh with the Florida Department of Children and Families, where for 6 years I ran their public assistance fraud and their benefit recovery unit. I became sort of a national subject matter expert at this, while I was kicking against the goads to address these issues. And I am a board director with the United Council on Welfare Fraud, which is a national organization. Let me just tell you about that for a second. It's a national organization, professional organization of all of the welfare fraud investigators around the country. These are your county and your state and some federal employees that combat fraud, and usually it's your big programs, your Medicaid, your SNAP, or your food stamps, and TANF, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, which is your cash welfare programs. And they will be having their, I think it's the 53rd National Conference in 2 weeks in Tulsa, Oklahoma this year. And it's an honor to be here representing them and to speak to your organization and to shed a light on some of these things. Minnesota is also, I have come and spoke at least 3 times with the Minnesota Fraud Investigators Association. They go by the acronym MAFIA, which I think is fantastic. And they meet several times a year. I think they were kind of decimated during COVID as everybody was having a trouble meeting. I think that's true for a lot of groups. And they are an affiliate for the United Council on Welfare Fraud. So I sit on the Intergovernmental Committee, which means that we deal with a lot of the state and mostly federal issues that impact these programs and program integrity. And we've been focused on fraud, waste, and abuse long before President Trump and Elon Musk decided that they were going to make this a priority, and with the formation of the DOGE. This picture up here on the, look at that ugly mug right there. You got the B team. This is from the very first DOGE hearing when Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene called the first meeting to talk about fraud, waste, and abuse. They wanted to bring the experts in. So because the U.S. House is Republican-led, they had 3 witnesses that they could bring in, subject matter experts, and the Democrats had 1. This is my boss, my employer, CEO Woody Talcove, and he took my seat, as he rightfully can, since he writes my checks. And then this is my colleague here, Dawn Royal. She's a welfare fraud investigator from the state of Wyoming, and she's been a national pastime president at least twice, and she directs the Intergovernmental Committee with myself. And so not only when they called LexisNexis and the United Council on Welfare Fraud to testify in front of the DOGE, I had to write 2 congressional papers on speeches. This is Mr. Stu Whitson. He's a former FBI director. He is with the Foundation for Government Accountability. He's currently running it for the Virginia House of Representatives. And the Democrats' witness is a blind guy telling him how to find fraud. I know that's not politically correct to point that out, but I just thought it was kind of humorous, and so did a lot of people in the room. But it was as a result of this hearing that Don reached out to the United Council on Welfare Fraud and said, "You got to come and talk to our folks here." And so I'm happy to be here. This is a cover of the Rolling Stone from July 2023, and it's titled "The $1 Trillion Grift Inside the Greatest Scam of All Time." $1 trillion. And that is a very fair and probably low estimate amount of fraud that occurred during COVID, the pandemic health emergency, and the assistance that the government was putting out. Now, you guys heard about a lot of these things, like the unemployment insurance fraud, where the groups such as this Scattered Canary folks from Nigeria were stealing. I think they got $600 million or something like that. The modernization of these third world countries has been at an astronomical pace. Well, what happened when they all got connected to the internet? Every one of them knew that the easiest ticket to get rich was stealing from the federal government, the United States Treasury. It's the largest bank in the world, and it is fairly risk-free, and you can make a lot more money doing that than working for a living. So they knew about it, and so when the U.S. government rang the dinner bell, for the world answered. Now, in the state of Minnesota, you guys are one of, I think, only 10 states that actually are set up as a county-administered state where you administer these programs at the county level, not at the state level. So besides adding another level of bureaucracy to the to the issue, you have more challenges in communicating and solving waste, fraud, and abuse. And I saw, and it's really tough to follow the speaker here. I'm really impressed with her and what's going on. But I know that you guys have had people from the American experiment that have come and spoke about the Minnesota Doge. That's the right step. I saw the numbers that were on here, and it's talking about $4 billion. I would put an asterisk to this. In the state of Minnesota, that's the waste. It's not necessarily just the fraud. The fraud's on top of that. I'm not going to talk about feeding our future because I think this has been hammered enough in front of you guys in terms of what's happening and how easy it is to steal. I think they're now up to 73 defendants. The ringleader was just recently sentenced to 28 years in prison. The number that was touted was $250 million. I'll tell you, anytime you hear a fraud number, it's sort of like the buddy that you knew that got a DUI. It wasn't his first time drinking and driving. It happens a lot more than that, right? Well, they didn't get 250. We know it's over $500 million, and that it's probably approaching 600 million. And we also know that the money through fake shell companies, because anybody can go and file with the Secretary of State here in Minnesota to create your own organization, right? What does it cost, $70 or something like that to file? You create these shell companies that were involved in this, these nonprofits, with fake documentation that was never checked. And the Minnesota Department of Education rubber-stamped all of it with no oversight. This is during COVID, right? Feed people. We're hearing all of this emergency information. We've got to do something. There was no auditing because if a pandemic health emergency occurs, all the rules are off, especially when it comes to state contracting and how programs are administering. The Stafford Act, which is a federal emergency act, allows agencies to throw the rules out the window. And so what happened is that the government was raining money down on all of us like manna from heaven, and it was the criminals who were picking it all up. This is another issue that you guys are currently facing right now, and it is skimming and account takeovers, and it's impacting people in the EBT program the most. If you remember, 10, 15, 20 years ago, we would hear warnings about ATM machines on using your EBT cards or going at the gas pumps, and people would be putting these skimming devices. Well, the Romanians perfected that, aided by the Chinese. And it's the most prolific problem about it is in California and in New York City. Shocking, I know. But it's because of these point-of-sale devices. So this is your regular point-of-sale device, and you see this when you go and check out at the Walmart or Target or any of your grocery stores when you're sliding your credit card through, right? Well, these are all made in China. And out of the same factories that they make these point-of-sale devices, they make these inserts that clip over or they snap over on top of them, and they fit absolutely perfect, and they're very hard to detect, and they will steal your information. Now, why do they want EBT cards? Because there's almost no protections on them. People have heard about we need to put chips on cards. It doesn't make a difference. That's not going to stop what's happening here. It's a 4-digit PIN number, and about 3% of everybody that's on food stamps or SNAP uses a PIN number of 1, 2, 3, 4. Or they use the last 4 of their social, or 1111. They're common PIN numbers. Well, the Romanians are taking the EBT and skimming that because they can get cash welfare, TANF, that's straight off of that card, that's cash, easy money. And they also can get SNAP benefits where they can go into a Costco or to a Sam's Club and they can bundle a bunch of cards together and roll a crate of Red Bull out the doors and sell it at your flea markets or your black market. Or they just go online and buy things off of Amazon and have it shipped to Romania or China. So this is who's doing it. So during COVID, the transnational fraud, like I said, was everywhere. Nigerians were the prime people, but I can tell you that Brazil, the Middle East, Korea. What's the largest export, the number one export for North Korea? Does anybody know? Human hair. Human hair, the weaves, right? So that's the number one export coming out of North Korea. So how is Rocket Man funding his nuclear program? It's because they, as a nation state, they are stealing. They go after the cryptocurrency folks, number one. And the second target that they have is the U.S. government, because it's easy to get that money, and they're stealing billions, and that's how they're funding their program. And it's not just North Korea. It's China, it's Russia, it's happening across the globe. But the Romanians and the Chinese are involved in the EBT skimming or the account takeover, and the latest thing here is not even skimming devices. They just, they'll reprogram a point-of-sale device to look like a Walmart or a Dollar General, but it's rerouting the funds to a prepaid debit card or to an account. And in 2014, Congress got USDA Food and Nutrition Services out of the market of oversight on these devices. Unlike a credit card or a debit card, if you guys travel internationally on a vacation and you use your Visa at a boutique store in Paris, it's probably going to be declined, right? Well, that's because they have geolocation on it and they know where those devices are. EBT machines do not. They're set up for it. They can. They've never been mandated to do that. And so back in November, the Romanian secret police raided a place in Bucharest, and they found dozens of these machines and hundreds of U.S. EBT cards because they use stolen identities to register for the EBTs, and then just sit there and swipe these machines, and they just deposit the money straight into their own personal accounts. And nobody knows where these machines are now in the world. We have an out-of-control issue here on the welfare program. So now I've been embedded with the Secret Service on some of their EBT skimming operations they were doing. Last week they were in Atlanta. Yes, they'll be coming your way. I will tell you that at least 1/3 of the store owners that were going in here that have a device that's been coded to accept EBT, and they are not authorized to be EBT vendors, are non-citizens. So the transnational fraud that we're having is not just coming from outside of the U.S. borders, it's coming internally here. And so you heard the speaker talking about some of the issues, like free health care for non-citizens. I got news for you. In 1996, President Bill Clinton signed the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunities Act, PERORA. It's illegal. You cannot give benefits to non-citizens, to ineligible citizens. So what we've done in the One Big Beautiful Bill about making sure that non-citizens are not getting this is just following the law that's already there. We haven't been. I think both parties can learn that lesson, right? Terrorist nations and the nation states, I talked about Korea. While I was in Florida, I will tell you that one of the things that you will not read about or hear about in the 9/11 Commission report is that every single one of those terrorists that came out of the state of Florida were on public assistance. So we can tell you that we fed, sheltered, clothed the terrorists that attacked us. It's a radical cleric by the name of Anjem Chowdhury that declared that the nation's food stamp program is the jihadist seeker's allowance. So it is a thing of honor to have your enemy feed you when you were attacking them, which means that, I guess technically you could say your food stamp database is one of the largest terrorist databases that this country has. Minnesota right now is fighting, as I understand it. The USDA Food and Nutrition Services said we pay for 50%. You heard the speaker talk about 90-10 with Medicaid. In SNAP, it's 50-50 funding. It went to 75-25 with the One Big Beautiful Bill, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But they said that since we pay for half the administration of food stamps in the state of Minnesota, DHS that data is also ours. Give it to us. So Governor Walz is fighting that right now and has filed a lawsuit against the federal government to prevent him from getting the database. Why? Because the federal government and this new administration is going to expose the issues that nobody else will. I do think that they'll get it. It's their data. And they paid for half of it. Is anybody familiar with the Government Accountability Institute or a gentleman by the name of Peter Schweitzer? Okay. Great guy. Back in 2018, he did a white paper. I think it's 30 pages long. And if you've got a smartphone here, I've got a QR code that's on here. If you focus in on that, the little yellow bar will come up. You click on that, and it will open this document. Or you can Google EBT terrorism. How fraud-riddled SNAP funds terrorism, fails at enforcement, and wastes taxpayer money. That was 7 years ago. Nothing has changed. Now, a lot of the issues that we're hearing about, and especially these things here, what we're talking about waste, or you're hearing about the DOGE or USAID and those things that are occurring right now, this administration is dealing with the waste. They haven't started on the fraud. They have to. At some point, this government's going to have to start writing some checks to fix some things so that we're not feeding the entire world unintentionally. But he's the one that talked a lot about this jihadist seekers allowance. And so I highly encourage, if you're interested in this and you're talking with your local representatives to talk about this and why this matters. This program, or that paper, basically ripped open the shroud that was over this program. And it was because Peter Schweitzer sent one of his investigative journalists to the United Council on Welfare Fraud and heard about it firsthand and decided, I have to write about this, I have to talk about it. This terrible-looking graph was created by House Ways and Means in 2013, as they wanted to document the 80-plus programs that the federal government is using to help our low income, low assets, resources, our poor. And this doesn't include unemployment insurance or any of those other programs. This little blue dot right up here is SNAP food stamp program. This little orange dot right up here is Medicaid. This is a mess. But instead of talking about that, then let's just mention here in Minnesota, you've got obviously your big ones. You've got your Medicaid, which it looks like your budget's around $7.15 billion per year. And they've estimated fraud, waste, and abuse is around $1 billion. A lot of that's duplicate participation, where you guys are paying for people who are enrolled in another state as well, but I'll talk about that. You've got your food stamp program. You've got your child care assistance program, which is where you're feeding our future money came out of. Fraud estimated that is $100 million. That's outside of the big bust that occurred here. You've got TANF, which is your cash welfare. You've got WIC. You've got other Medicaid programs like your child and teen checkups. But I want to talk just a little bit more about this one. I don't know if this is going to video play this, Scott. Nope. Are you able to click the play button? Yeah. All right. And there it is. Joe Thompson, acting U.S. attorney. He's dealing with it. There's no sound in this, so I'm ad-libbing here. This gentleman has gone out and said there's $1 billion in Minnesota just in the Medicaid program and the Medicaid stuff that they're talking about. The autism clinics, the housing stabilization services, these other programs that are here. And I understand that he's come and talked to you guys. They're not wrong on any of this stuff. And a lot of the waste that they're talking about is outside of this $1 billion that you're hearing from the American experiment. They're going to go and talk about feeding our futures. I'm going to save some time because this is usually about an hour and a half presentation. I'm going to stuff 5 pounds of crap into a 1 pound bag and rip through it. Let's talk about Minnesota's housing stabilization program. This was a program that was started in 2020, and it is funded by Medicaid, And it is to help the people with disabilities, mental health disorders, seniors, and the homeless to find stable housing. I can tell you, you guys could solve the housing problem, the homeless problem in the state of Minnesota if you addressed the fraud, waste, and abuse. You could overnight wipe out and every single veteran that is homeless in this state overnight if you guys dealt with this. So that was the intent for this, right? It started out that it was going to be $2.6 million a year and serve about 8,000 people in the state of Minnesota. Last year in 2024, you spent over $107 million to over 700 providers. There's over 1,800 here. Now, how did they decide who was going to bring up providers in? Probably the same people who are vetting Feeding Our Future, right? So I actually asked ChatGPT, how many people are on this program? And it went through everything, and it gave me all the links and the sources. Nobody knows how many people are actually being served with this program because there's a complete lack of oversight and transparency in this program. You guys are paying for this. And until March, and I don't know that this has necessarily been fixed since then, and I understand that they are still doing this manually, the DHF staff that review these providers are doing it still manually. Well, just last month, the FBI came in. They're not the primary overseers of this. That is your county DHS staff are the first responders to welfare fraud and to be investigating this. This is not the FBI. They've got other things to do, right? Their search warrant, I've never seen anything like this, retired law enforcement. This program has proved to be extremely vulnerable to fraud. That's a narrative statement that really doesn't belong in any kind of probable cause document because you're just talking about the facts, but it is a fact. False billing, artificial intelligence, copy-paste, all of the qualifications to become a provider for this program was the exact same document. They just kept changing the names of the provider and submitting the exact same information. And they got in. Millions and millions of dollars. Here's the FBI and police raiding one of these places where Minnesota DHS confirmed that it stopped payments to 50 housing stabilization service providers. And there's your governor. This is just last month. And Minnesota Representative Kristen Robbins said, this culture of corruption must end. It's time for real accountability, and that starts with a full independent federal audit. I agreed with everything she said there except for the federal. But that is not the answer. Our federal government and the rot that is in the executive agencies and the people that are doing this are not the most competent people to be doing an audit on this. You need somebody needs to be an independent audit. I think we have 11 states that are talking to LexisNexis right now to do a I hate to say house cleaning, but really look at what's happening in the population that they're serving to get rid of the incarcerated, deceased, the non-citizens, the people who live in other states, the people who are receiving benefits in other states, and the people who just lied on about their income or their assets. And that is exactly what is causing this problem. If you look at we knew this before COVID. In fact, the United Council on Welfare Fraud, or they go by the acronym UCOF, which was great until COVID hit, has known this all along, is that what is causing this fraud, waste, and abuse? First and foremost, lack of identity verifications. Do you know that it is federal law that states must accept an expedited application for food stamp benefits, including in every one of your counties here in Minnesota? All that is required is a name, an address, and a signature. So an online application, John Doe homeless with an X, is enough to get the state to begin processing it. And you can get 2 months of free benefits if you time your application correctly before you need to fill out the complete application. Well, that's when you'll be verifying the eligibility of the program to see that you're eligible, right? Lack of eligibility verifications. Minnesota also does the bare minimum on this. State waivers, options, policies. I was talking to somebody before this program started, and It's kind of what I refer to as fraud by design. It's not unintentional. It's happening, and it's because they've decided to take state options like broad-based categorical eligibility, which if you're eligible for one program, you're eligible for them all. Well, that's great, and that helps reduce the amount of administrative work that people need to do and applications to get those benefits for the truly eligible. But if the first person's not checking who you are to find out if you're even a real person, or to find out if you're eligible or not, then the fraud, waste, and abuse is compounded from that program. In fact, until very recently, if you went to a Minnesota Department of Human Services county office and and said, "I need help. I need to find I need a job that I can start getting income," and if somebody gave you a job placement aid in a piece of paper, they handed it to you, that was considered a non-resource part of the temporary assistance for needy families. Because of broad-based categorical eligibility, which is a state option, that automatically puts you eligible for SNAP. And so they would get you on food stamps that way. And it was designed to expand the rules beyond the normal eligibility verifications. Minnesota is a broad-based categorical eligibility state. That's a state option that they chose. Reliance on self-attestation. You're not alone here, but Minnesota operates the eligibility programs on the honor system. The honor system. So whatever they say, just trust them. It's okay. I think it was President Reagan that made that very trust but verify, right? It worked for Gorbachev. It works for our own citizens, too. There's nothing wrong with asking somebody to put in all of their application information and then verify it. There's nothing wrong with that. That is not inherently cruel. It is not immoral. It's actually just good administration. We can't operate our government off of the honor system when the entire world wants to steal from it, right? Pay and chase versus front-end integrity. Feeding our future. It's a bad story. It should have never happened. And that story is being replicated across every one of your programs. And so the mentality of get the money out as fast as you can, and then we'll worry about if somebody got it improperly and we'll go and chase that money down. That way of thinking has got to stop. It has to go into preventive and to stop it before it gets issued. And your speaker even said that too, didn't she? It's so encouraging to hear that. That's a breath of fresh air, and I hope you guys are supporting her. And then payment recoveries are lagging. It is Minnesota's policy not to go after and recover Medicaid fraud. Billions are going out the door, and your state says, we're not going to go after it. Now, if somebody passes away, they may go after the estate, but nobody while they're living. That's just wrong. Now they blame it on a lack of state legislation that allows people to go after the state capitation rates. Now the state pays anywhere between $13,000, I think it's $13,800 for regular Medicaid, up to I think it's $43,500 a year per person individually for Medicaid age blind and disabled in the state of Minnesota. And if somebody lies about it to get it into that program, you guys don't go after it. Federal public assistance, I mean, here's some of the good things that you guys do. You will match Social Security numbers, and you will match against the alien verification program, SAVE. You're matching against federal databases. It's a mess. Social Security Administration issues Social Security numbers to non-citizens. How do you get a driver's license? Bring your birth certificate, which can be anywhere, and I don't know, maybe a Social Security number, because you should be a citizen. Well, and it will help you vote. It will help you get your on benefits. In fact, when there's been some of us that have gone down to the border with federal agencies and politicians and have seen what's happening on our southern border. You know what's on the Mexican side of the border? Amongst all the litter and trash that's come across, all the ID cards, the passports, they've got to the American border, ditch them. You don't need them anymore. And that's what's coming in, right? So you should be looking at people's identity and their citizenship. Paris, this is the Public Assistance Recipient Information System. It's run by HHS at the federal level, and what it does is it takes quarterly matches of the entire recipient rolls in Medicaid and SNAP and matches it with all the other states to see if anybody is receiving benefits somewhere else. Well, I got to say you guys could do a better job, just to be honest with you. And it's a flawed system. It was designed back in the 1990s. It's kind of crap. In February of 2025, which the Biden administration took it offline for an entire year, so it came back, and you would think that all the states would be reveling in the matches that they were going to get there, and they would be actively doing it. You guys only submitted 934,000 records. I believe you got 1.7 million people on Medicaid. So I'm not sure why that is such a low number. However, there was 116,124 matches, 53,000 unique people. That means that there was 116,124 matches with somebody enrolled in another state. Now, if it's talking about just regular Medicaid, we'll take that $13,000 limit, or maybe it's Medicaid age blind and disabled in other states at $43,000 a year, and multiply it by that number. $4 billion, I think it's low. That's just on duplicate participation. We're not talking about the deceased, the synthetic identities, the incarcerated, just the ineligible. So I just did the math on this. I had to do it beforehand. I'm not that smart. I'm, like I said, a retired cop, just a knuckle dragger. 624 million to 2.25 billion, which you will not collect. Remember? Medicaid. Some of the bad things, 1634 state. I'll mention this just briefly only because it just infuriates me because I also pay federal taxes. But the Social Security Administration has a section 1634 of the Social Security Act. It allows states to administer Medicaid program that if somebody applies for SSI disability insurance with SSA, that the state automatically will accept their determination and enroll those people on Medicaid. I will tell you that the Social Security Administration also runs that pot of money off of the honor system. If anybody declares that they have less than $400 in assets, SSA says, okay, and puts them on SSI. And in 34 states in this country, they're automatically enrolled in Medicaid. The waste and fraud is unbelievable. Now, you guys are not a 1634 state, but why is that a problem? 82% of all those people that say that they've got less than $400, they don't even check. So only 18% of the people that are enrolling in SSI are actually verified and eligible. So the federal government, like they said, the independent federal audit, let's not do that. They clearly don't do it. In fact, the SSA has rejected the IG's recommendations for 14 years to stop doing that. And the last good thing is that you do some income verifications. You pay a lot of money to run people's income, but you don't run it on the initial application. You usually wait until they come back and redetermine their benefits. And then SNAP, I think it's an annual redetermination here in the state. So they can be on benefits for an entire year before you check. Not really great. You don't match with the Department of Motor Vehicles in your own state. Really? Why? I mean, that seems really easy. Let's see if the person, I don't know, maybe if they have a Minnesota driver's license or a Minnesota ID card, they were at least one time a resident of this state. You don't check. In fact, you accept self-attestation for residency. So let's talk about SNAP for just a second here, because it's important to understand this and understand why these things are occurring when we talk about fraud, waste, and abuse by design. So like I said, it's county administered, and the benefits, now the program administration is 50-50 for the cost for that, but the actual benefits, the food stamp benefit, was 100% federally funded. Here's the problem. None of the states want to spend state budget to protect the federal programs. So there's zero incentive to move from a pay and chase to a front end, right? So the one big beautiful bill did something that is really going to impact you guys and the speaker. And I hope you guys speak with her and ask her some questions about this, because boy, she's got a bright future ahead. And I'd say please send her to D.C. because there's still some common sense that's needed there, and work across the aisle. But you've got about 460,000 people on SNAP, about 235,000 households, and this is directly from the federal data that it was issued from federal fiscal year 2023. Average amount is $243 per person per month, or per household, it's $429. Boy, that's not bad. I mean, I lived off of ramen noodles in college for a lot less than that. SNAP issuance in the state of Minnesota was over $1.2 billion. Well, the one big beautiful bill said, we're going to go from 50-50 funding to 75-25. You're going to have to pay for more of the administration, and you're going to start paying for benefits. If your error rate is 6% or higher, you're going to start having to pay for those benefits. An incentive for you guys to start tightening your oversight and your accountability, right? Well, in 2024, the most recently information that was here is that you have an error rate of 8.98%. That means that you have incorrectly issued $107 million in benefits because your county folks are not doing it correctly. It's really, they're also not doing verification, so can you blame them, right? If that error rate holds true, well, first of all, in fiscal year 2027 for the federal government, it's October of 2026 for the rest of us, the administrative costs are going to add an extra $43.5 million to your budget. That's an automatic one. It's coming, and it's based off of how much you guys have currently spent, which is around $87 million a year to administer this program. And it's more expensive because you guys are county administered. But that's an extra $43.5 million. In fiscal year 2028, when the benefit costs will hit from the one big beautiful bill, you're looking at a $151 million increase to your annual budget. So we're looking at just under $200 million. You guys, that's right around the corner. October 26 for the $43 million, and October 27 for an extra $151 million. So the focus on error rates has got to improve. Well, are they going to hide the number? They used to do that. In fact, there was a lady that the federal government actually paid to go around the country to teach people how to game the system on your quality control error rates. And there was a DOJ investigation in there, and they found out that everybody was cheating, had to pay the money back. Why were they cheating? Because the federal government used to give states bonuses for increasing the number of people on benefits. So you get rewarded for putting more people onto social welfare. And we're only talking about a couple $1 million. If they were cheating the system for a couple $1 million, what's going to happen when states are faced with a $150 million bill? Now, because you guys are county administered, this is going to really hurt some of your rural counties, especially in northern Minnesota. I mean, what's Blue Earth County going to do when they get an extra $2 million hit to their budget because they now have to pay for benefits? They're going to lay staff off, or they're going to increase property taxes, right? If you can hit play on this one. This is not Minnesota. I'm going to just tell you right now. This is a library card. This is an internal staff thing that was going to show how they'll accept for identity almost anything. So church records, military ID, library cards, an insurance policy, a student ID, immigration documents, divorce papers. A Sam's card will get you approved identity, a newspaper announcement or a phone bill, or a wage stub, which you can falsify and they won't check. Any of these things. Point to your name in the paper and they'll say, well, gosh, that's you. And they'll get you, and your identity will pass. So this state actually, when they're training their employees, they revel in the fact that they'll take anything to verify your identity. See where we got in a problem here? Now, this is not your state, but your state does the same thing, and these are the same rules that they apply for. So they will accept an identity card if you upload it onto the application system. They just don't verify it. They won't even check internally with your own DMV. There's lots of room for improvement. Now, you guys are going to have to spend some money. I saw the eligibility checks on this American experiment thing says it's going to save you guys $300 million. I can tell you it's not going to be $5 million to verify the eligibility on all these people. That's a great way to start addressing some of these budget shortfalls that are going to happen, and identity needs to be one of them. Rob Undersander. Does anybody recognize either of these folks? Well, one of them is Minnesota Senator Jeff Howe. This is from 2019. And the other is a gentleman by the name of Rob Undersander. Rob Undersander, I believe he lives somewhere around here, is a Minnesota millionaire. I think you all are, right? He found out about the broad-based categorical eligibility and the loophole where they don't check assets, and he applied for food stamps. He put everything in there truthfully, and he and his wife were given $314 a month in food stamp benefits. So after, I think it was almost a year and a half of being on benefits, he finally got somebody's attention for it with the senator here, and they went on Fox News and exposed the loophole of broad-based categorical eligibility and how you can be a millionaire and be on benefits. Everybody was outraged at Mr. Undersander, not at the program. One state, actually, when they were looking at, if you're going to move or if you're going to change something, you guys downsize a little bit, you clean the house, have a garage sale, right? That's what we're talking about in terms of looking at your population. Well, one state asked to look at the people here and say who's driving brand new or 1-year-old luxury vehicles that are on food stamps. And in this state, Elon Musk would be thrilled to know that 2,531 people are driving brand new Teslas. Now, I know Tesla is not necessarily a luxury car. I know that because my wife has one. But a Mercedes-Benz, a Lamborghini, BMWs and Mercedes, a Bentley, a McLaren, a Ferrari. Should those people be on food stamps? On our taxpayer benefit dollars? Probably not. I don't know. This is not Minnesota. A 2022 Bentley GT Continental is not in this list, but at the Blue Book on it was $250,000, so kind of had to include it. But if you ran those numbers in the state of Minnesota, if your Minnesota Doge was to take a look at your population and he was just matching in these things against their Department of Motor Vehicles, this is what you would probably find in your own state as well. So the honor system, we sort of talked about this. You guys, this comes straight out of the documents for your eligibility program and your Medicaid, and I believe it's the same for SNAP. You accept the honor system that they are living, in fact, in the state of Minnesota. So, and here's the crazy thing. If they are living in the state of Minnesota today, and they apply, and they move to Iowa next week, you guys will still feed them for an entire year. It's nuts. Age, date of birth, no sense in checking that. If you're pregnant, they'll take your word for it. Some people on assistance are pregnant for years with the same child. In Florida, I had a prolific breeder that was having children every 3.5 to 4 months, had 17 of them in a span of 3 years. It was incredible. Caretaker relatives, household composition. Just add as many children as you want. Nobody will check it. And you get more benefits for every child, right? And you heard about the president increasing the earned income tax credit for children. Ripe with fraud and waste because they don't check that either. If you've applied for other benefits, if you have documents that are uploaded by any of the clients, a driver's license, a passport, a utility bill, an income wage stub. None of it's checked to see if it's photoshopped. In fact, there was a story during COVID in unemployment insurance, and it's not Minnesota, but a gentleman in New Jersey applied for unemployment insurance with New York. It was legitimate. He had lost his job. And when he saw how easy it was to get on benefits, he started doing identity fraud. He put on an orange wig, took a picture of himself, put the picture on a template that he got for South Carolina driver's license. He bought it for $5 online. And he was making his own identities, uploading that image of that South Carolina driver's license. And he stole like $13 million from California online. And he had an orange wig on and put a freckle on his face. And they would ask him to upload a selfie and then upload a picture of his driver's license. And they would compare the picture of the selfie and the driver's license to each other. Of course it matched. So, unfortunately, that you guys go by that same system. Income. So anything that, if you say that you are self-employed, you've got your own side business, they will take your word for how much you make, period. And if you provide your own wage stub, they don't check to see if it's something that's been photoshopped. They don't even run it to see if it's matched. Or any of your Uber drivers who make a pretty good living being an Uber driver. I can tell you the line of cars that I saw from Lyft and Uber at the airport yesterday when I flew in on my birthday shows me they're doing a pretty good job. I guarantee a bunch of those folks are on benefits as well. That's not checked either. All right. I get this question all the time. All right, now that I'm depressed, Andy, how do we fix this? It's not that hard. Know your customer. So I would encourage you guys to talk to your party members and say, I want you to find out, I want you to know who we are serving. I want you to look at a full audit of the recipient and beneficiary roles. So let's remove those deceased, incarcerated, ineligible non-citizens, synthetics, non-residents, and duplicate participants so we can free up several $100 million, right? So as the speaker had said before here, you have to know how much fraud is there to figure out how bad of a problem is and how to attack it, right? You need to do that in your own recipient roles across the board, every program. Remove data silos. You've got a lot of problems here. If you're not sharing between DMV or your state wage data, any of these systems that we have here, talk between programs with child care and WIC and SNAP and TANF and Medicaid, and the programs go on and on. Housing services, right? Conduct process improvement studies to streamline operations. Well, first of all, let's talk about mandating the Medicaid overpayment recoveries, and if it does require a state statute or a new state code or regulation to go after and recover that Medicaid overpayments, it's just fiscally smart. I know it's pay and chase, and we're talking about preventing it as the number one way to fix this, but at least go after it. And then I would also say, so right now in SNAP, if you catch somebody committing fraud and they committed $1,000 of fraud and you guys recover that $1,000, because there's a program called the Treasury Offset Program that'll intercept somebody's tax returns or their federal payments that come to them, including Social Security. And the state of Minnesota gets to keep 30% of that. We're doing it right now. Where's it going? It just goes back into your general budget. So the governor can spend it on whatever program. Back to DHS, it goes back to the counties, and mandate that it's reinvested into program integrity and data verifications on the eligibility to solve all the problems that we've just been talking about, right? That's not a hard fix. That's a legislative thing. The speaker could probably, even with half of 1/3, could probably get that done. A legislative review of all the program policies and practices for all programs. This is going to be an unpopular thing. The rot at the federal executive agencies that President Trump is dealing with right now, that you hear about on the news, and the gnashing of teeth at getting rid of our public servants or addressing some of them, it's because they were doing their own thing. I think that you have that same problem in state executive agencies as well. Somebody needs to ask some tough questions. Why are we a broad-based categorical eligibility state? Why are we not enforcing the work to welfare program with able-bodied adults? Medicaid, by the way, you now have to work to be on Medicaid. Are you guys going to enforce that? Why not? Probably because you don't have the policies or the practices in any of the programs. Somebody needs to do a full review of this, like the broad-based categorical eligibility or the data verifications. In fact, in Minnesota, you guys refer to that as over-verification if you verify somebody being eligible. It's actually frowned upon. So you need to also eliminate the overuse and reliance on self-attestation. It does have its point, and it does have its benefits, and it does have its need when there's a data verification that has not occurred. They can't find that information. Then it's okay to say, all right, as a last resort, we'll take your documentation. But you shouldn't be relying upon it, and that should be reviewed as well. I have here at the very bottom, and probably most folks can't see this, Florida's Medicaid and Public Assistance Fraud Strike Force. When Senator Rick Scott from Florida was our governor in the great free state of Florida, he mandated, and it was passed by Florida legislature, to create a Medicaid fraud and public assistance strike force. And it mandated that every one of the agencies get together, work together, share data together, report back to the Florida legislature on what they were doing to address fraud, waste, and abuse. And that was 15 years ago that they started that. In fact, during that time, they commissioned an actual fraud study to find out how much fraud was there. Nobody else has done that since. I think that the time is ripe right now, especially with that extra $200 million bill coming to you guys just in the SNAP program. It's time to kind of look at that as well. And a fraud rate staffing analysis. Do your counties have adequate manpower? I know that there are numerous counties in this state, and I know this because I've spoken to Mafia, that they only have one investigator for the entire county. What can they probably handle? Maybe a dozen cases a month? The manpower issue needs to be looked at, and you need to see if you have enough of the right people that are dealing with program integrity information here in the state. So with that, I've got my information that's up here too. If you want to come and talk to me, I've got business cards. I'm more than happy to hand them out. If anybody from your state legislature wants to talk about these things, I will. In fact, I'll be back up here in September to help train some more of your welfare fraud investigators, and I'll be working on that. I've provided both my Andy.McClenahan at lnssi.com is my work email, and my United Council on Welfare Fraud is andrew.mcclenahan.ucoff@gmail, and I'll be more than happy to speak with you. So thank you, Don, you for bringing me here in the first place. So go ahead. First question. About as well as I hear my wife. My
question is, with the push for cryptocurrency, with the ease of jumping in to do this fraud thing, abuse, is there any protection that cryptocurrency is going to be protected?
No. It's a digital currency that is, cryptocurrency was created to essentially hide the transaction information by jumping that information from thousands of computers. Why do they do that? To make it harder to track that money. Cryptocurrency is a current major problem. And because there are so many of them, there is not a standard cryptocurrency, digital currency that's out there, not Bitcoin or Doge or any of these other ones. Yes, it's a loophole, and somebody will find a way of cracking that, and it's needed. Good question.
My question is, and I hesitate to ask this because I think I know the answer, and it will scare the bejesus out of me.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any correlation to states who infer that they are sanctuary states, or those that claim to be sanctuary states? Is there a correlation, higher fraud in those states, or not?
Of course. So when you are saying that if you are a sanctuary state or sanctuary city, you're saying that you're a sanctuary from what? The law. So if you encourage that this is a place where it's not like Sin City, that this is a sanctuary where the laws don't apply, who comes? People who don't want the law to apply to them. You're encouraging lawless societies in sanctuary cities. Period. Yes, ma'am.
Second question to that is then, are we looking at the illegal immigrants who are coming in, and we're not just finding the child predators and so forth? Are we looking at this level of criminal activity that's coming into this country illegally?
Yes.
Thank you.
So Secretary Tom Homan right now and he's talked about, he's going after the criminal illegal immigrants. Well, by very nature of the word illegal immigrant, you are already a criminal. It is a felony to enter this country illegally. It is a misdemeanor to remain in this country illegally. But what he is doing, because you've got to start somewhere, he is starting at the people who already have warrants for their arrests, who have already gone through the immigration due process and they have said you do not qualify for citizenship or even a green card or to be a lawfully residing non-citizen, and you shall be deported. And that includes a lot of people that are currently incarcerated as well in both our local jails and our state prisons. That is where he has started. But I think at the number of deportations that would need to occur, he's got a couple decades of work that has to happen. And I think that's getting enough publicity right now that people are starting to understand it. And Americans, while we have a really short-term memory, are not blind. So, Chuck, you were to...
Yes. In the solutions, you didn't mention holding government people accountable. And after feeding our future, nobody's been demoted, fired, sent to jail. Could you talk about that a little?
Well, who would those people be? They would be your program administrators that are setting up those rules, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So were they intentionally approving those people? It's an insider threat problem. Yes, that stuff happens. In fact, I don't know if you heard about it, but one of the people who approves SNAP food stamp retailers that works in Washington, D.C. for USDA Food and Nutrition Services, and their job is to screen those applications, was actually selling the store numbers for all these people who are ripping off real legitimate needy people who go to buy groceries with their EBT card and find out they had no money on their card. And that probably has impacted several million people that had that money taken out. So she's going to face criminal prosecution. But again, we're talking about paying chase, right? And the chase also applies to those administrators and those and offenders. Yes, sir.
If you use a chip when you run your credit card instead of swiping it, does that save you, or do they have a way of scamming that also?
So yes, there's skimmers that are now coming into the market that defeat the chips on the cards, as well as we've heard. I have not seen any of them personally that bypass the touchless tap to pay as well. If you are using your credit cards when you're shopping, and don't use your debit cards, please. I tap first. I use the chip second. I try not to swipe. The chips and the cards are not the answer, and for a couple reasons. Number one, FNS allows online shopping. So you can go onto Walmart, you can go onto Amazon, you can go and purchase groceries and then go by and pick them up or have them delivered. There's nothing to insert, swipe. It's an online transaction. Chips and cards don't stop that. Right now, that's at least around 20-25% of benefits are being purchased online. And you could actually buy them online and then send them anywhere in the country or I think the world. The second thing is that MasterCard, Visa, who run the credit and debit card side of the business, and those point-of-sale devices also take credit cards, right? Well, they're not getting rid of the mag stripe on the back until, I believe it's 2032. So those mag stripes, and that's because of Europe also as well, those mag stripes are going to be on in those point-of-sale devices for the next foreseeable future. I think chips on cards are a basic line of defense for the card being present, swiping transactions. But right now, a library card or a hotel key, you can reprogram the mag stripe on that with a device that you buy on Amazon online for less than $50 and reprograms those mag stripe cards, and you have an instant EBT card. That is a major problem, and the chips and cards is a placebo to satisfy a lot of people that we've done something. I think California just spent $40 million to replace all theirs. They're already seeing bad guys taking a chip, tap-to-pay EBT card, the mag stripe on the back, and recoding it to a compromised card. So even on the face of it, they look at it. Now, in some states, they want to put your pictures on there. But anybody in the family that's eligible under an authorized family can use that card. So, and we have, a lot of us have our pictures on our credit card, right, on our Visa. Does anybody look at that and say, and match it up? They don't. And we can't ask these crooked retailers that are giving you 50 cents on the dollar for a transaction or giving you drugs or guns. Or even I've seen human trafficking where people are having sex with trafficked individuals, including minors, and they're paying for it on an EBT card. So those chips on the cards aren't going to stop it. It's a great question, though, and I thank you for asking that.
Me.
Yes.
Okay, so bringing it back home, what can we do? I mean, now these people, I worked in government for 30 years, so,
yep.
Okay, somebody has to approve all of this as you go into these offices, state or federal offices. Somebody going in there, I mean, the person that's going in to apply, you can't blame them. I mean, they're applying. How do we, and do you ever cover, or do you have steps that the general public can take to help in that process of going after the staff that is approving all of this? I mean, I think that's a big part that's been missed from your presentation. I mean, what do we do as the public to go after the staff if they are not held accountable, the staff? Now, you're going to have this forever.
Yep. So now when we're talking about fraud, waste, and abuse, you're talking about waste that's in here, or that what we call that fraud by design on the administrative procedures. It starts with the awareness and the pressure on your elected officials to demand accountability and oversight. Now, if Governor Walz doesn't want the USDA FNS to have Minnesota's SNAP database, why is that? Because that USDA FNS is asking some tough questions. I would be talking to your representatives and demanding that if that's part of their party platform, that they deliver on it. And so these state options on how the programs are run, those are the first people that are accountable. And thank you for 30 years of dedication to the state of Minnesota, because nobody goes into government work to get rich. Well, except for politicians, but the insider threat from the employees is an issue. It's been a long-standing issue, and that personal accountability has to be respected on here. I think we got time for one more question. Two? No? We don't have time for this? All right, here we go. Sorry.
Yeah.
Hit you afterwards.
Thank you, Andy. We're not going to be able to go through the full length, 2 cents for 2 minutes, but I did promise Ruth.
Yes. Thank you. I know everyone is ready to go. I have an appointment as well I have to run to, but I just wanted to let you know that I am Ruth Bittner, and I am running in the special election in 34B. So I am the woman that Speaker Demuth was talking about earlier. So, it is a very, very tragic situation that has brought us to this point, where this evil act is the one that ended Speaker Emerita's life. And, but yet, Governor Walz called for a special election, and my district, which I live in, Melissa Hortman's district, needs representation. So I am stepping up, and of course this was great information to hear all this today, like it gets us all fired up, what we need to do to stop this fraud. So I am a person that can help, because I will be a legislator that would vote for the Inspector General, which is the first step in eliminating this fraud in Minnesota. All of that, we've seen everything that we can do here, which is just incredible. So I'm very excited about that. So I'm asking for your support, and I have to run. Mary Cedarberg is there. She could help. On the back of my business card is a QR code that will take you to my website. If we can work hard and push us over here, then this would be control of the House of Representatives in Minnesota. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ruth. Yeah, I did promise also Elaine. Can you get her a mic? We do have to be out of here by noon, so I'm trying to...
Okay. I just want to announce that Metro Republican Women is doing a fundraiser for Speaking Proudly, and the event is a week from Thursday, the 21st, and we have secured Representative Tom Emmer to do Washington updates. It'll be held at Casper's in Eagan, so it's an evening event, and you must be registered. So you can just Google Metro Republican Women. It'll bring us up, and you can register online.
And Sherry? She had to leave. Okay, she has left. Okay, we'll do our prize drawing. Okay, I'll draw. I'm sorry, I was going to have you all read this, but I'll have to read it. Okay, the last three numbers are 960. Okay, Elaine, and one more. 902. And is Bob Hallberg here? He was the winner last month. Okay, thank you. Look, folks. Next month, our speaker will be Rick Smith from the Sons of the American Revolution, and talk about the 250th anniversary of America's independence. So thank you all for coming this morning. Our next meeting is September 9th, and I'm sure hoping to see you at the Minnesota Great Get-Together. God bless you all.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the
Republican Seniors of Minnesota. For more information, please visit republicanseniorsmn.com. While visiting our website, you can click on the video tab to watch videos of past meetings. Also, look for other tabs that bring you to our live player and other video programs. Or, on YouTube, search for Republican Seniors of Minnesota